Bombers, the team that plays to win for you and me.
Welcome back, Shimboners, to episode 99 of the Shimboners podcast. On today's pod, we will be going over a few extra notes we may have missed out of the big win against the Dees, previewing the big clash against the Crows on Channel 7 again, 2 weeks in a row. Oh boy, unheard of for North, Chief.
We're big time now.
And as well as going through our usual matchups and predictions, as well as something we've got planned for Media Street a bit later on. To help me get through it all, as usual, the Big Chief. Welcome. How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling great. Can't wait for Sunday. Big test against the Crom at Adelaide. But we'll get into that a bit later.
Oh, we will. Well, let's start talking a little bit more about the Dees game. Obviously, we delivered an instant reaction about an hour after the game we recorded. So there's a couple of things I want to go over before we get to the Crows. I think it's their best win for the decade. Obviously, only the 16 we've had. But I was thinking about it during the week. Obviously, that win over Carlton in COVID, where we touched them up when Wiedering was getting poised to be the fullback in the All-Australian squad. And Big Suv said, "Here's 7 for you, mate. Off you go. You're not getting in." Then there was the King of Marvel game, but I think that's probably definitely the most complete performance that we've produced as a side. A 4-quarter demolition job on the D's around the ball, and some reward for effort in that last quarter.
Yeah, how many times you watched it?
Only twice so far, but
same. I'm halfway through the third. It was. I think you're right. It was our most complete game. We looked good in all 3 areas of the ground. We've probably wasted a few opportunities early, which is typical of North, but we got into our work, and after half time, watching in the complete stressless effort of watching the replay, we were always going to win.
Yeah, and 7 goals won from centre bounce, which is our all-time record since Champion Data started up in 1999, which got me thinking, I don't reckon we've got close to that in the last sort of 3 or 4 years. It's been long bomb to Andrews, McGovern type. Whoever the intercepting defender is of the opposition, we'll kick it to them.
Well, the lockdown on poor old Larky.
Yeah.
But now we've got a lot more options, and we're using the options. That's the key. We're using the options. And just while we're on the forwards, what I really noticed was how much PC and your man, the Bull, really looked inside. And I reckon Bull must have listened to a little bit of criticism I levelled at him last time. And we had a bit of debate over that he wasn't moving it on quick enough. Well, he certainly moved it on quick this week, and look how that worked. Yeah, there was a few more turnovers, but the ball was in constant motion. When I say a few more, they turned over a couple of times, but they were looking for that better option all the time, and I liked it. Ball didn't stop in our forward line. It was always in motion. And
it's a great point you raise about our dynamic forward line. I reckon we'd be in the top half of forward lines now, with lots of options. We've got 2 of the top 3 in the Coleman, between Silv and PC. And I read a stat during the week that PC, Nick Larkey and Cam Zerha have combined for 30 shots in 2 weeks. And to keep that up, and we're going to be definitely hitting our goal of about 7 or 8 wins, if not more.
Yes, yeah, big test. Obviously, the midfield dominance helps the forward line, so we'll see how we go for the rest of the year, and more importantly, this week, I suppose. It'll be a big test against the vanilla midfield of the Crom, which has had a bit of spice put on it.
I'll tell you what, it's got vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, a bit of a Neapolitan. You got the cookie and cream on the side, because they've got lots of options going through there now.
It's cold rock, isn't it? It's got to add what you like, but I still think, I'll say it, I think we're a better midfield.
Yeah.
I think they've improved a lot from when we criticised them as a lot of other people, that they were vanilla this time last year. But yeah, they've improved.
It only took Matty Nix 5 years to realise that playing 3 contested small, slow mids probably wasn't the go. But we'll get to them a bit later. Team of the week, SEN, 4 players, AFL.com, I think we had 3. So it just shows the domination, and Big X featuring in all of them, I believe, as you should.
Yeah, and who else? Chom. I think Chom was in them all.
I think Larky was too, so...
Larky? No, I don't think Larky
Zerha.
Yeah. I think those 3 were in all, and PC was unlucky not to be in all, but he was in the SEN one.
Yeah. Some other notes I want to touch on from watching the replay. Jack Darling's tackling pressure is awesome. There was a few times where they were starting to link it out and getting some good chains together, the D's, and Darling's tackling pressure for a bloke of his size and carrying around those gigantic boulders that attached to his arms. His ability to apply pressure is fantastic, and he's definitely surprised a lot of North supporters, me included, with how quick he is as well.
Yeah, well, it was always going to be an improvement, on no disrespect to him, but Toby Pink and Big Tess Teakle.
Yeah,
It was always, and he's a major improvement on them. We've seen that.
We've got Toby lined up. I want to talk about him a bit later on. But, yeah, and then I've got an official apology on the Shinboners podcast. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had to apologise yet, have I?
No, well, even if you're wrong, you still don't. But
pretty much.
from watching the replay, obviously, for those who know the Basti, the Ryan Bastinak Player of the Year award, we generally don't look at stats, and we do it off feel of the game.
Straight after the game, we do it.
Yeah.
We do it blind. We don't consult with each other because we've got our own stats to do. So, I think I know where this is going.
So I've got an official apology because after watching the replay, if Chom was any stiffer, he'd be dead.
And explain why.
His third quarter was crazy.
Explain why you're apologising and I'm here with my chest out not having to apologise, please.
Well, I didn't have him in the votes.
No. What? And I said at the time, how could you leave? You obviously didn't watch the second half.
Well, I did.
You crucified him for a couple of drop marks. Well, if everyone got dragged and never put on Dennis Pagan for making a mistake, we'd have no one left.
But my counter-argument is, I don't know who are the 5 that I gave votes to I'd take out. That's the problem. We had so many options. And you didn't have Zerha, and he's had 17, 12 score involvements, kick 4.
Yeah.
So more of that, please, boys, where it makes it hard for us to choose the 5, unlike a few games last year where you went Sheasel, Sherry, who else are we going to put in? Because that was about it, a few of those games.
Well, just to go over old ground, I had Chom at second best, gave him the 4 votes, and the main reason was because I can't remember the last time we've had a key intercepting defender stand out so much, except for his good self last year and his better games. He was doing that, but I think he had 8 intercept marks.
He did. He had 5 in a quarter.
Yeah, and he had about 2 in the first quarter as well. So it was only that little 5-minute patch in the second where he'd like that again. But everyone makes mistakes. No one goes at 100%.
I think he thought he was Jared Waite, and then he got hanging in the air too long and got a bit confused.
Well, watching the replay, he even did a little 15-minute across the goal that came off.
15 metre.
15 minute, yeah, sorry. 15, I'll apologise for that. 15 metre, 20 metre chiseler, and it worked.
Probably felt like 15 minutes for him with a couple of his little chisels he's done. He probably thought, get there quicker.
And talk about improvement. He did a long... Remember the cross to Colby, where Colby dropped the chest mark in round 1? He did the same sort of kick to Bailey Scott, but kicked it so Scott had to just run 2 or 3 metres behind him to get the chest mark, which just gave him that little bit of space, and then Scott still took the chest mark, was under a bit of pressure because it has a little bit too much hang time. But his experience and just the fact that it was slightly over his head, he'd obviously learnt from Colby, whereas Colby just had to stand there and wait with the old clock ticking, tick, waiting under the high ball like a punter.
Small watch
or
on
punt
that.
receiver, what are they?
Yeah.
Punt returner in the NFL.
Small watch on that because he had another moment he would have liked back Colby against the D's.
He did.
So it's 2 in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So just a small watch. We'll be keeping an eye on that.
He's not built for that, but when it's your turn,
Neither's Foss. Doesn't stop him.
No, that's right.
My next point
Boy,
is the
cut the whack there, didn't I?
the True Shinboner Award. That's your segment. So who was the nominee for round 2?
Well, it was Chom, and we just probably discussed why, but the true shinboner, they're all shinboners that run out, but these are the true ones who stand up, put the head over when they have to, and the fact that he had those 2 horror moments in the second quarter, he could have easily gone into his shell, could have said, it's not my day, I'll just punch all day, but no, what did he do? He doubled down and went hard and took all the marks he had to. I think he dropped one after that. And yeah, that's just true Shimbo. Never beaten, never give up. He could have easily have gone into his shell, as I said, but no, never beaten, never give up. Came back twice as strong, and yeah, got votes from me in the award. most prestigious.
We're not.
And made teams of the week, and got a lot of. I think Jared Healy said on the call, he's an All-Australian centre half back. You know, you got a lot of media attention, and we already knew all this about Chom, but it was good that because he was on 7 probably. Even though I was watching it on Fox, it was on 7, and yeah, the greater media actually woke up to who North are and who's this Chom. He looks like a gun, which he is.
The Great Wall of Combin, they were calling him on the socials, which was very funny. Moving on, I want to talk a bit more about the back line. Stood up under pressure, and they showed that if you could give them some dirty ball coming in, they can apply their craft. I mean, we spoke briefly about Aiden Core. Toby Pink provided just that lockdown, which allows Chom to come across and play on the smalls and come across and impact in that way. So, big tick to them. And we saw, which we haven't really highlighted, the return of the Kanga crossing. So, for those who might not be familiar with what I'm talking about, a few years ago they had a set play from a kick-in where all players would go to one side and big cunners would just roll across and they'd kick it to a one-on-one.
And he was a great mark for a in and under midfielder. He had great hands, great above his head.
And last week against the Dees, there was a set play, and it was Foss, the second game that they kicked it to. I don't know, it wasn't the exact replica of Kanga crossing, but that's what it reminded me of. And they backed the young fella in, and Daniel weighted the kick perfectly, and a bit of dare coming out there, just the long down the line. Great to see.
Yeah, I love it. You can't do it every kick in, but yeah, just have a set play once a quarter. And we used to do it to Cunners a lot, and it was fantastic, because then he's the best user in the team when he got it. And I think we probably chose Foss because, once again, good overhead. So you put someone similar size on him, he'll outmark him.
Yeah.
And another thing on the back line, his decision-making's been underrated, hasn't it?
It has.
Well, it hasn't been overrated. Like, he's really, really good. And there was another one where all the traffic was going to the left of the screen, and he just, I'll go back the other way, and he found Robbie Hansen Jr. all on his own in the outside the defensive 50. And then he can start the attack from there. It's just... great play, great composure.
Another one who's had a great start to the season, but we're going to move on. We obviously had our podcast last about the win, but we just want to give a few more thoughts. The next thing I want to bring up in the agenda, Brayden Maynard. So we saw the reports from Jay Clark and John Ralph, 6 years, $1 million. Well, thankfully, our man, the most reliable journo in the business, Cow Toomey, on Gettable yesterday, says his mail is there's no official offer on the table, which is good because I'll get to my thoughts in a minute. But he reckons it'll be around the 3 to 4 years at around the 800K mark, which is a lot better for a 29-year-old than offering 5 or 6 years, particularly when they're not your dynamic burst players and he's more of a bring the shit, lockdown culture man.
Yeah, left footer, so there's probably a lot of truth in it. If Clarko's got anything to do with it.
What are your thoughts on him just in general, taking out the 5 to 6 year, just as him as a free agent target?
Yeah, well, free agents are good because they're free hits. They're free. It's in the title, so it costs you no draft capital. We've got plenty of money, but I don't want to be... That's too long, the initial one, 6 years at over $1 million. That's way too long for him.
Unlike Jay Clark, to be wrong.
He's cheap football now.
Drive-by there for Jay.
But, I'd like the one Cow reported on, which is probably a lot more accurate, but they'd be putting the feelers out to the manager. I mean, it's round 2. They're not making big contract offers yet.
No, but they did target him in the trade period late last year to try and get him across.
Yeah, and then you've got to start feeling people out now. You can't wait till September or October, but yeah, it wouldn't be... I don't reckon it's gone to length, and the details wouldn't be set in stone, I suppose is what I'm saying.
And the key there is that there's no official offer on the table. Well, I think a lot of managers just use North and St Kilda to try and
bump up the
price.
Yeah.
But I will say that if that is correct and that was the path, there's a lot to play out, but they'd have to heavily front load the crap out of that contract, because with Combin, your Wardlaws and McKerchers all coming out of contract in the next couple of years, you want plenty of coin to get them and attract bigger free agent stars than Maynard. No disrespect to him.
But I think it's going the way now. You're not getting the big ones, not just North. I think a lot, like they reckon Warner's staying now, at least he becomes a free agent for 2 years. I think it's more your medium free agents, that the ones you can pick up easily or easier.
Right, let's get
And
into...
he'd be good. I think he'd be a good fit for us because he's got the mongrel. He's tough. He's in that sweet spot of 28, where he's at his prime. We'll have his prime years for at least another 2. You'd imagine.
Brings leadership too.
And brings leadership.
I wouldn't say he's a necessity, but he'd be
No.
a nice addition, especially as you mentioned, not having to give up anything draft wise.
We can lock down. He can freewheel a bit. He's not horrendous with his ball use.
Tough.
So, we'd find a spot for him.
Right, let's get into our preview of the Adelaide game. So the biggest elephant in the room is we are yet to win at the Adelaide Oval. I don't have the official stats, but I reckon it'll be about 0-12 because we just cannot win over there. Big test against the Crows, who are you can only beat who's in front of you, but they've absolutely belted the Saints and the Bombers. They broke their MCG Hoodo last week, where they hadn't won since they did the big power stance, and that backfired on. Looking at our injury list, Griffin Logue's a test. I'll touch on him in a minute. But the concerning news is another setback for Josh Goda. Someone a lot of North supporters have as the big, exploding player for this year, and just another couple of weeks we're going to have to wait to see him, and he's going to need a significant block in the VFL as well.
Yeah, it's not good news.
And I had a look at their Adelaide injury list. They've got 2 players, and neither of them would be in their best 30.
You've never heard of them.
Well, Kieran Strawn's played about 5 games at Ruckman, and then I can't even remember the other guy's name. But having a look to the last time we met, we were there actually. It was round 7 at Boot Park. Our best players were Colby had 32, Sheaslin LDU had 29, and Cam Zerha kicked 3 goals to lead the way of the forward line. We lost by 57 points. Really disappointing because they weren't firing. Tex taught our man Chom a few lessons that day as well.
Yeah,
and disappointing performance.
The vanilla midfield they had. I went down to Hobart believing we'd win. We hadn't won, obviously, at that stage, and it was very disappointing because I think we lost every quarter. They just kept...
I think you're right,
I think there was 4 goals and 6 goals, and it just didn't look good. Kurtz looked good. It was our first look at him live. He was very good, and it was probably the birth or certainly the thought process dropped when I saw Chom giving that speech in the back line and a bit of mongrel. I think that was the conception of the CCC.
I think
so. There was some good to come out of it.
I think you are right. Just a quick one on Colby. I had to look back. He got the perfect 10 in the Basti that day. Okay. From memory, he went at like 93% with his 32 disposals. He was magnificent that day. Let's have a look at the VFL. I didn't watch it. You watched the first and last quarters, I believe. So I've spoken to a few of our listeners who were there. Fisher's had the 40 disposals, but a bit shaky by foot. A lot of kick-ins as well, so that inflates the stats. Zane Dersmer a little bit quiet. Matt Whitlock, impressive, 20 disposals. Will Dawson looked good. Geordie Payne had the chance to win us the game with about 30 seconds. Is that right? Did you watch the end of the game?
Yes, I did. Well, I'll have to apologise to the VFL side because I jinxed them. I watched the first quarter and we were horrendous. And Fisher, his first 2 possessions were both turnovers. And then I had to do something. I came back and turned on and watched the last quarter. And we were 15 points up, and I thought, this is good. And because they count up in the VFL, so it said 5 minutes and something, but then I thought, we'll win. But then it counts up.
Hang on.
Counts up, so I thought, okay, it's still a live game. And then I think I saw us kick 1 goal, and as you said, it ended in a draw.
Geez, you're on watch.
I know. I don't know if I'll be able to watch the VFL again. And, they seemed to dominate. We were kicking with the wind. It wasn't a howler like it normally is at Casey Fields, but it was favouring our end. And in the end, Geordie Payne had a snap, rode the pack nicely. I think it was off the hands off the pack, and it was a live ball anyway. And 30 out, snapped it, and just too much hook on it. Just missed, just went out of bounds. We only needed a point. You don't know how long to go, but you knew it was around 30 seconds or less. And, yeah, it was poor. And the first quarter, Melbourne should have put the game to bed. They were kicking with the probably 2-goal wind, and they owned the corridor. Like, think of the worst games you've ever seen the North Seniors play, when the other team owns the corridor and walks it through. That was what was happening. And I thought, what are they teaching them in the VFL? But, I'd take a draw, because every time I watched it, we were poor. And Whitlock, he got, I think it was Fullerton, is that his name?
Yeah.
Came from the
Lions.
the Bears, I was going to say, the Brisbane Bears, down to Melbourne, and he got a few marks on the lead, and I think Whitlock was opposed to him, but then you look at his stats and he did quite well. So, once again, it's like, when they own the corridor and they can hit a 30-metre pass to someone leading at them, it's hard to defend.
Yeah, and just having a look at some of the footage, and as I mentioned before, speaking to a few of the people at the ground, I think my comments about Taylor Goad and with how patient we've got to be stand true, because got a bath by former Shimbona Tommy Campbell as well. Testicle was quiet. Big Finbar clunked a few, which is good to see.
And kick straight, 2-1.
That's good for him.
That's very good, especially with the windy conditions. But yeah, going back to the ruckman, I almost forgot about that. Oh, it was horrendous. Think of the best ruckman ever, and times him by 2, and that's how Campbell looked against our guys. He just outbodied them. Like, you think, I know he's only young, goes a bit taller, but yeah, Campbell just come across the line, hold him out, and yeah, they should have played him in the seniors instead of Max, I think. He might have given Big X a bit more of a go, because he looked awesome, Campbell.
But it goes back to what you said about how...
Hang on, you expect him to do it maybe against Goad, who's inexperienced, especially in the ruck, because they didn't use him in the ruck hardly at all last year. So it's all new to him, against a senior experience. I mean, Campbell's always dominated the VFL. But Teakle was just as poor. He come across and hold him out. And I thought, you've got to be better than that, Bryn. If touch wood, nothing ever happens to my man. But you're next up. And it wasn't good enough.
No, and you mentioned, like, in today's footy now, with the new rule that you can come across and block, it's going to take him a bit of adjusting with his leap as well. He's not your physical ruckman just yet, as he's only 19 years of age. I want to talk about team changes next. So I've had a look at it, and Griffin Logue's a test, and I'm very strong on this. I would not be sending him over. He's so injury prone. He's important to our structure. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And without being pessimistic, it's a game that's going to be a challenge to win. I want him right to play 18 plus games. I'd be giving him the extra week and letting Toby Pink stay in, because I thought, despite his couple of silly turnovers, he was pretty good, especially his tackling.
Okay, I'm the other end of the boat here.
You're playing...
Well, I trust Kevin, the Irishman. If he says he's right to go, you play him. If he says he's not right, you don't play him.
Oh, boy.
I'm not this saying, we're not...
Have a look at the hamstrings so far.
We're not saving everything for Christmas. We're here and now. We've got to play.
This is a bloke who's played 4 games in about 2.5 years for North.
Yeah, but it's nothing to do with his hamstring. It is this time. So, ACL, you can't help that.
No, but...
So if his hamstring's right to go, if he ticks off, we trust Kevin.
Yeah,
and he plays. Because I think they've got, 3 key forwards with Curtin sliding down there as well. So at times they'll have 4 key forwards. So we're going to need... arguably our best one-on-one defender.
Yeah.
Like, who are you putting Pink on? That's the worry for me, because he tried hard. He was good after he, a bit like Chom, made a couple of clangers, but after that he was good. He wasn't at Chom level, obviously, but he allowed Chom probably to get off and beat Chom. Who are you playing him on? Because I think they're all strong. Like, Tex will be too strong and smart for Pink, I think, because he's, played 300 games compared to Pink's 10. Fogarty is pretty strong, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I was going to get to the matchups, but I just want to talk about the hamstrings a bit further.
Okay.
Because you talk about Kevin, Goda, supposed to be injured. No, everything's fine. Trains again next week, gone. George, hurt his hamstring. Oh, no, he's right. Trains again next week, gone. So I'd be super cautious with this one with Griff, especially with how important he is to us long term.
So, Kevin... maybe the first one on the watch list. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Well, okay. So he's, better be right this time, Kevin. But yes. I'm sure they err on the side of caution. But
I'm sure they will.
Try holding George back when he goes out there. He's gonna test it every time.
Yeah.
He's a 100 miles an hour operator.
Yes, right. Let's get into the matchups. We will start where the game is won and lost, as our man Clarko loves to say, in the midfield. So the ruck battle. Big X, he's smashed English, smashed Gawn, who are two All-Australian. Well, Max is arguably one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, they've both been All-Australian.
And English, a former All-Australian.
Can I just talk about English quickly? How happy would West Coast be that they're not paying him $1 million a year? Because he's got the form of a wet lettuce.
Yeah, well, their current ruck stocks are disgraceful though, but they're just a
But hasn't he fallen off? Like, he was the biggest free agent or pre-agent or whatever he was a couple of years ago, and could have owned half of West Australia. He'd have owned him and Harley would have had West Australia together. But his form's dropped. Anyway, this is not a Footscray podcast.
Well, clearly it is. You'd love it. Up the scray. So this week he comes up against Riley O'Brien, who I think he can absolutely kill on the spread. He's been dropped a few times in the past few years, being robbed for falling asleep defensively. He's more of the X-style crash and bash with a lot less of the talent. So his follow-up work's not as good. I think this is a big way we can expose them. And then you look at the midfield. Jordan Dawson, he's a star. He's lethal left foot. It's going to kill us.
And he's sneaky tall. He's 190.
He is. Jake Saligo's taken the step for them, provided a bit of a point of difference. They've still got Matt Crouch in there, who has his 35, with 33 of them being handballs, so he's our extractor. And then you look at the X-Factor players. They roll through Rankin, and they have about 8 different people who go through their centre bouncers, but Rankin is the number one X-Factor player they have there. But our midfield dismantled one of the highest rated midfields last week. You look at Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, and Gawn, who are one of, if not the most experienced midfield group that would have played games together.
They're probably the midfield of the last decade, aren't they? Mm. They're very good. They're historically good.
Yeah, so we killed them in around there. So I'm backing our mids to be able to do that again. Then you look at the defensive matchups you wanted to talk about. Riley Philthorpe, their main man down there, he generally plays deeper. There was great footage. If anyone gets time, have a look at the first crack preview. They did a great segment on how the Adelaide forwards keep their separation. So there's never two of them going up against each other, which means they isolate one-on-ones. So
which means, sorry, you go. Who are you putting on him?
I think Aiden Call probably goes to.
No, I think Chom, because if they're one-on-one, Chom's the only one got the height. He's 201, Chom's 199, and if they isolate, you're not going to get third man up very often, or if you do, it's going to be a Luke McDonald type. But they isolate really well. I watch that footage, and
you look at
and they also slide Curtin down there.
They do. You look at last year, and Core had the matchups on. So Max King flogged him, absolutely killed Van Rooyen last week. So I think he can do it. But whichever way you go, there's going to be a matchup that doesn't look great our way. So then Tex, well, if Griff doesn't get up, I think Toby Pink probably gets that. I think he's still a great player. He's lost a lot of his burst speed. His big ticks are his use around the ground, and I think Toby could be a good one to match up on him. Darcy Fogarty's an interesting one. Do you go a Charlie Comben or do you go a Luke McDonald? Big tough test on Elmac if he was to do that. He's a really hard matchup because he's at 192, but he's strong as an ox.
He's got massive thighs. He's got thighs like a cyclist.
He does.
But and he's a great kick. If he gets 5 or 6 shots, he'll kick 5 goals. He's a bit like our man, sort of like that. So and he can kick bombs from outside 50, as can Tex.
Yeah, and then you look at those 3 talls, and then you add Curtin, and you think, oh, gee, that's dangerous. But it doesn't let up, because then you look at their small forwards. Isaac Rankin is one of the most dynamic players in the league. Josh Rochelle started the year. He's very hot and cold, but he's hot at the moment, playing great football. And then you've got Alex Neil-Bullen, who you can't sleep on either, as he's a great
he's a role
player.
He's going to go up and free up one of their midfielders to sneak forward, probably Rankin when he goes in there. So,
and then they got the biggest cheat ever at Adelaide, Ben Keys.
Oh, Ben Keys.
He loves getting out the back, so you can't fall asleep on him either.
You're not cheating when you kick 4.
No.
I mean, that's what you want. You've got to time your run forward. That's the modern game.
So that's as dangerous as a forward 6 as you'll probably see.
Yeah, now, the big question, who Caleb Daniel goes to?
Well, I think Daniel probably goes to Rochelle.
Yeah, I agree.
The Rankin matchup's an interesting one. Like a Darcy Tucker, maybe.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Well, Rankin's going to be too clever for anyone, but Darcy could lock down on him.
Well, we saw the
But
job.
if I'm Adelaide, just flipping the hat, if I'm their coaching, I'm whoever CD goes to, Daniel, I'm saying you come down to the goal square. What do you call it?
Take him to the cage.
Take him to the cage.
But I don't reckon...
Because one, it puts them one out, and two, there's no rebound off the half back line with him in the cage.
Well, I'd be taking CD to Rochelle because I don't think he's that good overhead.
No. Yeah, so I'd try and get that's the best. That's what I'd do. But even then, I'd say Rochelle, you go to the cage, and there's talk. Fisher had 42. Bring in another user. That would really worry me because means Rankin is probably on him, doesn't it? And that worries the life out of me. We can't have two vertically challenged defenders because Rankin can take an overhead mark.
Finn O'Sullivan could be one to get the job on Rankin.
Foss, give him on Foss. That's a big test, isn't it, for a third gamer? But you're in the big leagues. That's what you're here to do.
Exactly. I just want to have a look at their back line, which is their weakest line, the Crows.
Who's Elmac going to then? You're giving him the third
I think he probably gets Curtin or Fogarty for mine.
Yeah, okay.
Then we have a look at the...
Toby does a great job like he did last week. Underrated what he did.
He's back, Elmac.
He's back.
All
right. I like it.
I'm on the Elmac train.
I like it.
There's a lot of supporters
You're in first class, I reckon.
that have rightly criticised him over the years, but I think I'm just backing him. I'm backing him. He's a true shin boner. I'm backing him.
Yep.
Let's have a look at the forward line matchups for us. So Larky and JD, the two keys. Their key backs susceptible, I reckon. Mark Keane, he's just a bit of a nice, solid...
Yeah, they're solid. They're
Toby Pinks.
Yeah, they're a bit of a no-name. They've probably played a bit more than Toby, to be fair, but... They haven't got your all-Australian quality key backs, have they?
And then Nick Murray's our other key. But what they do match up on, which a lot of teams don't, is Curtis and Zerha can be tough matchups, but they've got two players that'll lock pretty well on them. They've got Josh Worrell, who's their third tall, bit of an interceptor. And then they've got one of the best lockdown defenders for the medium size in Max Michelini.
Yes.
So that'll be a tough one.
And I've looked at their stats. They're all tall.
They are.
They're all 190 plus. I think our Worrell's 195.
He is. So watch Special K. He'll get in there, down at the feet.
Yeah, I hope so. And Laird's gone back there to be their user, so he'll have 30 plus coming out of there.
You talk about Daniel. Whoever's on Laird, get to the goal square. Take him to the cage.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be your man, Special
K. Get him one out. Imagine that 270 centimetre blokes just in the goal square. My big thing on the Crows, though, they love aggressive ball use. They love to use their users. So, but what it does do is it leaves them susceptible if you can bring the pressure and force the turnover. Because they're aggressive. They run aggressive patterns.
Yep.
You bring that pressure, we'll get them out the back.
Otherwise, they'll slice and dice us. But yeah, if we can bring the heat,
I watched that.
We can get them on turnover.
I watched, generally, whoever we play the following week, I'll watch that game pretty close. So I watched all 4 quarters against the Bombers. And
their training drill.
There was a training drill because it was just they had a gazillion uncontested marks.
Yeah.
And I've got no doubt Clarko would have been all over it, and North will bring a great game style to navigate that. I want to talk about Clarko quickly because he adjusted well in the Doggies game about not giving them the corridor.
Yep.
And then a great game plan against the D's. So 2 big ticks for him. He was just let down, unfortunately, in the first game that... Brad Scott must have been in there with turning the lights off before the game because nobody decided to turn them on.
Switched on. They weren't switched on at the first quarter, were we?
No, and we were wasteful in front of
maybe that wasn't... I doubt that was his game plan to let them march it through the corridor.
Anyway...
Although, as I said earlier, it looked like the VFL game plan from the little bit I watched, but I clearly watched the worst bits as far as we were concerned.
Let's get to our game predictions. So... I'll go first. What's a pass mark, I suppose, is a good question. I think we can't follow up the great win last week with a thrashing. So while many don't expect us to win, I think we have to be competitive. We have to bring the pressure is the big thing for me. I've got the Crows winning by 27 points. What say you?
Yeah, I say 4 goals. So I think it's got to be the Clarko mantra, which is just be in it at 3/4 time. Or, hopefully even deep into the last quarter, but... They're 50,000 screaming morons. we probably won't get a good run with the free kicks.
No.
What is it? The noise of
affirmation. But I think they are taking the leap, and I predicted them last year to finish top 4, and they didn't decide to do it last year. But I think you can see the change game style for them, but they haven't beaten anyone.
No, and I still think we can win this.
So do I.
Don't worry about that. If we get beaten by 10 goals, there won't be a great 100th pod.
No, and a two-town team, they can start to believe a bit of their own hype. And if we bring that pressure early, and as I mentioned, they've won both their games for having it all their own way and playing their game style. Let's force them into something different and see how they go. Because if we let them get it in that quick with that dynamic forward line, it's curtains.
And if we can...
And that was a pun because they've got Daniel
Curtin.
Yeah,
if we can... we can dominate the midfield, which we dominated a better midfield last week. So that's what you said it in the preview. That is the key. But we should beat their midfield, and especially X has come off, 2 All-Australian ruckmen. Now, as long as he doesn't get caught into the lull of thinking I've got this bloke beaten already, because we have seen
competitors don't do that.
No, that's right, they don't, and we have seen him do well against Goldie when Goldie was in his prime. But anyway, I expect our midfield to win, which will give us first look at it, and they'll have to do a lot of work from the back line.
Yes, right. That leads us into our Shimboners podcast tipping group, sponsored by the good folk at SC Rings. A shout out to Kangaroos in Singapore is his name. He's in the lead, so big shout out to him. I'm in 120th, so that's how well I'm going.
I'm on about page 3.
Yes.
Did anyone get 9?
No one got 9.
Okay.
Well, it was only 8 games, so it would have been half.
Okay, so you're not going to get your name read out all this week. Did anyone get 8?
Nobody got 8. So let's get into...
So just for those new tipsters, if you get a perfect round, you get the honour of having your name read out on the pod.
You do. So let's get into round 3. We've got Essendon against Port Adelaide tonight at the Marvel.
Right. Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm tipping Port as well. Not a ton of confidence on that one.
I think I went by 25 points. That's the points margin.
Yeah, I've only gone 13. The next game, the Blues against the Dogs.
Doggies.
Yeah, I've gone the Doggies as well. Melbourne and
no
the Suns.
McKay, late news. No McKay.
Yes,
Mackay.
Harry would be, but anyway. Here we go. Next game, Melbourne versus the Gold Coast.
Gold Coast.
I'm going the Suns as well, and I'm going to hit you with an over-under. 17,500. Over or under?
Under.
I'm smashing the unders on that too.
It's not ski season yet, but they'll find better things to do. Although it is not at Marvel. How much do they bag Marvel?
Well, they think of Richmond.
What's wrong with Marvel?
Nothing.
No.
I like Marvel.
Yeah, so I think it's good viewing.
It
especially
is.
if you can get up on level 2.
Yeah, that's right in the premium.
Yeah.
We got the Saints and the Tigers.
Saints.
Saints for mine as well. The game here in our hometown, the Hawks against the Giants.
Game of the week, game of the round. And I don't normally go because I'm just Shimboners or nothing. But that will pique my interest. But I've got plans, so I won't be going.
Yes.
And it won't be on 7. So shout out to Dino, whose house we're going to. He better have his Foxtel up and running so I can have a sneaky peek.
Yes, we're going to one of our listeners' wedding party. So congratulations. Big shout out to Wally. But,
yes, many congratulations and a few frosts on Saturday night.
Yeah, Fox Footy.
Fox Footy. Get it on.
The other game...
You'll have your phone going, no doubt.
Probably. The other game at that time as well...
We haven't tipped.
Yeah, we both tipped Hawks, didn't we?
Well, I didn't officially, but yeah, game of the week. I think the Hawks just don't get beaten. I think it's 50-50. The Hawks don't get beaten down in Tassie. So
if this was played anywhere else, I'd tip the Giants, but they don't lose down here. Brisbane and the Cats.
Brisbane.
Oh, Brisbane. Easy.
Okay.
Adelaide and North.
I'm tipping the Crows. But I think if that was a Marvel, I'd almost lean our way. But I think their key forwards, especially if Logue doesn't come back in, you're restraining him. You're cancelling his passport out of Victoria. So I think, their key forwards are probably a bit much.
Jeez, North paid $6. That surprises me.
We'll get on the unders, under 39.5.
Yeah, and then the Derby or the Derby? How do they say it over there? I think it's the Derby.
Well, we don't even. I said this last year on the pod. We don't even know how to say it here because we've got a town called Derby and they have a boat race down the river, and they call it the Derby River Derby. So we're on 50 cents each way. So you can pick.
I don't know, but I'm tipping Freo. That's all I know. And
Yeah.
if I reckon
Freo for me as well.
if Wet Toast get rolled, if Freo get rolled, they may as well cut the cord now. Long Muir, see you later.
Yeah, which means I'd lose because I'm still backing Ken to be the first one to do the walk.
Oh, that'll come. Don't worry. Right, quick media street segment before we go. So we mentioned that we were going to talk about Toby Pink. So great content from the club, which we don't get enough of, and that's a little grind my gears, of him mic'd up at training, and the boys couldn't believe it. He said, they don't do it to the players who aren't the stars. And he was talking about a redhead fire calendar like we see that's pretty popular with the female demographic. And you get Big Toby there holding the hose with his shirt off. Any other redheads from North?
Like a fireman's type calendar.
Yeah.
And Toby there looking magnificent. And then I'm thinking we might have to get little Blake Jury back to maybe be the mascot. Maybe the little, what do we call him? The Shermanator. The Shermanator. Get him back. So they're the only real redheads I can think of.
Good luck to him in the sample too. But I was thinking, pose it to the listeners, what other famous redheads from the North Melbourne Footy Club could be in there? I've got Lockie Hansen, and you tried to tell me that he wasn't a redhead. But have a look when the hair was not just a number 2 over the top.
Yes.
It was definitely red.
I must have had memories of him losing Kangaroo Lotto where there wasn't a lot of hair there.
But what other shimboners do you reckon in the past that would make up the red-haired calendar?
Mossop, who we got from Geelong, who played about 4 games as a ruckman, he was a redhead. I don't want to say Keith Gregg because he's a legend, but he probably had a little strawberry blonde. Little, but I'll give you blonde rather than red.
Lee Harding, was his more bit of a red team?
Yeah, we're struggling, aren't we?
Yeah.
To get the true redhead like Toby.
Yeah, exactly. But
and little Drury.
That might leave us there. I've got nothing else. Have you got anything before we say goodbye to our listeners?
No, that's it. Thanks for listening, and Kana Kangas!
Big test this week against the Crows. Competitive effort is all we ask. We'll be back on Monday to review the game. Until then, we'll see you next time for our 100th episode. Go Roos!
Good old North Melbourne, they're champions, you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me.